And I believe, okay, so we are live. Let's go ahead and wait until say like 12:05 if that's okay, just because I know I can see if people like type in comments. So we'll give it just like another 4 minutes and then we'll get everything started.
All right, sounds perfect.
And Shannon, I'm not sure what it looks like from your screen, but you should be able to see like the comments or chat as well. But if not, I can.
I've got it, but I think to forward through the PowerPoint, I have to have my other screen up. So I guess I'll have to flip. I can kind of flip back and forth and see,
Okay.
after a couple of slides, every couple of slides, and see if anybody's commenting.
Okay, perfect. Jenna Biaggi says hello.
Hello.
So we're going to wait just a couple minutes, everyone here, to get started, just to make sure everyone is settled and we are good to go with the presentation. So we'll get started here in just a second. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're enjoying Sold so far. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Avila. I'm with Lindenwood University. I'm super excited to be here with you today. I will be running everything from behind the scenes. So if there are any issues, please let me know. You can always send me a private chat. And I'm super excited to introduce Shannon Wright, also from Lindenwood University, who will be presenting on online networking today.
Thanks, Pamela. Yes, and I want to thank everybody at Sold for inviting me to speak today. We're going to dive into networking and how LinkedIn and our new normal with COVID can work out. But yeah, first and foremost, my name's Shannon Wright. I'm the Assistant Director for Career Development here at Lindenwood University. And let's begin. All right, so the first thing that I always want to address now when talking about networking or job search, internship search, anything along those lines, is the new normal, which are two words everyone wishes would go away. However, it's a reality right now. So COVID has really changed recruiting, how you network, how you interact with potential employers, with coworkers, how you interact with looking for internships. Everything has changed. In the past, we knew that we could go to a career fair and talk face to face with an employer. We could visit a happy hour or an after hours event and meet some employers and representatives from companies. You could also go to meet the firm type meetings. You could also, one thing that's really changed now is the ability to job shadow, the ability for you to get into an employer and really see what's going on. COVID's kind of impacted that. And also internships. I know some probably have lost internship opportunities due to COVID. Others may have had to change or move to a virtual type of internship. So those things have all been impacted. So what we're looking at now, like I said, virtual networking, virtual career fairs, doing drive-through events, doing different types of events. You're seeing a lot of employers. One keyword you'll hear also now is pivoting. Employers pivoting to do different types of events to interact in different ways. And so what we're going to kind of do is discuss some of those changes, how you can still interact with those employers, how you can build your personal brand and a LinkedIn account and utilize those effectively to connect with employers in a post-COVID world where we're seeing a lot of things done more virtually. And the first thing I always want to bring up is the first thing that everyone needs to realize is that you have to hit the point of acceptance. So we have to accept that changes are taking place, and we have to adapt to those changes. If you can't do those two things, if you're trying to live in denial, or if you're trying to live in if you're accepting that changes are taking place, but you just can't adapt to it, you're going to struggle in this in the economy, or at least in the near future. So some things will eventually return in time. So there probably will be in-person events again in the future. There will be, but what I want to get across is that there are going to be some changes that become permanent. For those of you, for anyone who's a current student and even recent graduates, a remote workplace is probably going to become a reality to you. Being in the office every day may not be the new norm. There may be rotational systems. It may be purely virtual where you're working from home. So that's going to change. There's also for recruiting, and this is both for those seeking internships, experiential type learning, or full-time jobs, online recruiting and sourcing by employers. And sourcing is when they are seeking you out, is going to become the new norm. And we've seen that with employers already, where they're saying, we're doing less of our traditional recruiting efforts, and we're actually going out and trying to find the best candidates by looking for them online. And then there's also going to be an increased need for technical or industry-specific skills. And it's going to become more of a skills-based economy, where they're looking for specific skills related to jobs, to where you're going to have to upskill as you move, as you're consistently moving along. So something to consider, and when I bring up those skills, the skills-based economy. So before tackling a personal brand and what it is that you're putting out online, putting out on your LinkedIn to potential employers or potential internship opportunities, the skills or competencies-based work environments. So I mentioned that just a little bit ago, but in today's economy, employers are seeing that, yes, they want you to have that solid foundation of a degree, but you're constantly going to need to be upskilling. You're going to constantly, whether it's technological, whether it's a change in, COVID's made everyone realize that there's going to need to be a change in some of those skills that, employers are looking for. So work history is always going to be important, but possessing those relevant skills that are necessary today are what is going to make you stand out in the workplace. It's what's going to make employers notice you. So having those specific skills and relaying that to potential employers is key. So know your skills, know your technical skills, those industry specific skills. So those could be like coding, if you're an artist, those could be painting, or if you're a teacher, classroom management, those are your technical skills. When you get into things like soft skills, communication, critical thinking, being adaptable, those are all some things that employers are looking at. And actually on the next slide, as we move over, I'm going to get into some of the other skills that employers are looking for right now. So this slide represents career readiness competency. So these are all skills that have been identified by NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And it's an organization that straddles between higher education, career services, and employment or career readiness, and then also private industry. So they have private industry representatives. And what they did is they polled their private industry representatives. And what those companies came up with were these 8 competencies that they want recent graduates to possess. So these are things that for a current student, you need to develop these as you're moving through your college career. For a graduate, these are skills that if you don't possess, you need to figure out how you can pick these up either in your current job or by picking up skills competencies, maybe additional training, professional development. So breaking those down, obviously critical thinking, oral and written communication, teamwork, digital technology, leadership, professionalism, actually managing your career. Employers do want to see that you're able to manage a career, you're looking for career progression and things like that. And then also a global and intercultural fluency. Now, in addition, over on the right-hand side of the screen, I also have a few additional skills that have come about because of the COVID economy, being digitally savvy. So, I mean, being able to utilize these communication tools, so Zoom, WebEx, Teams, etc. Companies want to know that you're savvy enough, and these things are only going to develop further as we move forward, that you're savvy enough to utilize the software or the applications. Time management. If you're working at home, time management is key, because now all of a sudden you're responsible for your time, not necessarily someone who's supervising you. You need to be adaptable. Adaptability keeps coming up over and over. One thing that current students have been, and recent graduates have been seeing, is the ability to adapt, because you have to adapt to changes constantly. So those are skills that you possess because of what's been going on in higher education. Additionally, being a professional, so that kind of goes along with that time management. You're now going to be responsible for being a professional. Communication skills certainly have always been there, but now even more important. And lastly, problem solving. So the ability, so I keep saying, if you're working at home, all of a sudden you're going to now need to be a troubleshooter for, maybe it's IT problems, where traditionally you would have had someone in the office with you, where you could have asked a question or had an IT person come down and look at your computer. Now you're going to have to do that at home. So the ability to problem solve is going to become key as well. All right. And so now, moving beyond these skills, I'm going to kind of delve a little bit into what a personal brand is. We're not going to go terribly in detail on personal branding, but we're going to kind of touch on it so you get an idea on how all of these, the COVID economy, personal branding, and networking all interact. Personal branding definition is up there. It's conscious and intentional effort to create and influence public perception. So basically, it's your marketing packet that you're putting out for, and in this case, what I'm referring to is for a potential employer to see. And what I have bold definition is differentiating themselves from the competition. What I want from you, whether it be a resume, whether it be your LinkedIn profile, whether it be an online portfolio, whatever it is you're putting out there, personal website, I want to know what makes you a different, the best candidate for me as an employer. That's what you have to start thinking about. And so don't tell me what it is you've done that are general, like obvious job duties. Tell me awards, tell me recognition, tell me those types of things. Those are the things that I want to know. So some of those key elements when creating a personal brand, you need to sit down and make goals. So you need to have set goals for what do you intend to do with, at the beginning of this process. Are you looking at landing a job? Are you looking at landing an internship? Are you looking at a particular a graduate school experience, or some other type of experience? So what is that goal and the end goal? You need to work out an elevator pitch. And this is something that kind of transcends. Everybody sees an elevator pitch is that, I'm at a career fair and I'm going to go up and talk to this employer. It's my, my initial spiel. But that elevator pitch transcends that as well. It can go on it can be, kind of that personal statement on your LinkedIn account. It can be something that you're using on your resume as a summary or something along those lines. You need to know who you are and you need to create that pitch. Again, on that resume, I need to know your strengths and your skills. I need to know your experience. And like I said, I really, really want to know your accomplishment. And then moving over to that social media and LinkedIn presence, I need to see you online. I need to know beyond that resume, beyond some of that basic application information. I need to be able to find you as an employer. I want to be able to find you, and I want to be able to build a better picture of who you are as a professional. All right, so kind of breaking those down, identifying your goals. So like I said, whether you're searching for a new position, you're changing careers, or looking for advancement, you need to sit down and figure out what your goals are. And your personal brand should center around that goal. And these can change over time. Maybe initially you're looking to land a great internship in college. So you have everything is set up in one particular way. A lot of it's based off your college experience. Then as you're moving on to looking for a full-time employment after graduation, it's going to focus on a lot of your experience. Maybe you landed that internship and it's focused on that experience and the skills you built there. But it can evolve over time, but it should center around those goals. Be clear what you want. And then also look for, are there things that are blocking my success? And so when you say what could be blocking my success, maybe you're missing a specific or a particular skill. Maybe there's an experience that you need. Maybe you're seeing a lot of job applications out there or job postings that are saying 1 to 3 years of experience, and you didn't land that internship, so you don't have a lot of direct experience. Look and see what maybe it is that's blocking your success, and look to get around that. And then the other part with the goals is they also will provide motivation and focus you when you're going through this process. The other piece that I always throw out too, include more than just work in your goals. So a lot of people, that end goal is to land a job with a prestigious marketing firm. That's great, but also, how does my family life? Is there going to be work-life balance with that? Do I have any hobbies? Do I have any passions? Do I want to travel? Financial considerations, you need to know what salary, talk about salary and have an idea where you can stand, what salary you can and can't take, professional development, health considerations. All of these things come into play when setting up these goals. So keep those things in mind as you go along setting those goals when you're creating your personal brand. All right, so then that second piece is creating the elevator pitch. So there's a very basic formula for crafting an elevator pitch, and it's, hi, I am an X with Y looking to do Z. The X, obviously, it will sum up, what it is you do. So maybe you're a current student, maybe you're a recent graduate someone who has an accountant with 1 year of experience, something along those lines. But it's telling me who you are. So, and maybe some sort of credential. So recent graduate with a degree in, maybe you're bilingual, something along those lines. So that X sums up what it is you do. The Y relates to your experience and what value you bring. So that's my key, is always tie that value into what an employer is looking for. So if they're looking for someone who is has an entrepreneurial mindset, make sure you mention that when you're talking. So you customize this pitch to maybe who you're talking to. Then the Z is what you're looking for. So you need, and this is where we're talking goals, you need to know what it is you're looking for. Employers want to know when they're talking with you what your end goal is. The worst thing that can happen is you're just like, hey, I'm looking for anything. Because then they're like, well, you're just talking to us because you're looking for anything. It doesn't make them feel like you're invested in them as an organization. So tie that in specifically what it is you're looking for into the organization you're talking to. And remember to focus on things that set you apart. So always, always, always remember to focus on what it is that makes you exceptional, what makes you better than the other candidate. All right, your resume. So we've made it through those portions. We're going to talk a little bit about your resume. It's more than just an outline. And again, this is your chance to separate yourself from the pack, especially if employers are only accepting resumes as as a way of selecting candidates. You have to figure out how to make in 1 to 2 pages, a document that sets you apart from others. So, make sure that the job or career that you're targeting, your resume should be reflective directly of that job or that career. You may have to go in and customize your resume, and you probably should go in and customize your resume to every job posting that you're applying to. It's the reality. Any people in HR, hiring managers, they're going to look through and they'll know if you've just made a general resume that kind of applies to any job that you've been applying to. Try to tailor it specifically to that opportunity. Make sure your skills come across clearly. Make sure that I can see them as an employer really quickly, and that they come across in a very clear and concise way. And then also, are those skills aligned with your target position? So look at a job description, look at the position that you're applying to. If they have skills listed in that job description, make sure they're reflected on your resume. The worst thing is submitting a resume with none of the relevant skills or experience related to what they're looking for in the job description. They're never going to give you a second chance. Are your accomplishments apparent? So when I talk, what it is that sets you apart, maybe you were recognized for exceptional customer service 2 years in a row. Make sure that that's apparent on your resume, and make sure it's in a place that I'll be able to notice it quickly. 30 seconds or less with an employer, glancing through a 2-page resume. Make sure that I can see that information. Make sure that I see those that recognition and those standout achievements, and make the most out of your space. So focus on what's relevant and what's important. If things aren't relevant to the company or the position you're applying for, consider removing it from your resume, or consider it making it in a less prominent position on your resume. Create a complete picture of yourself as a professional. So I need to see you as a professional summarized in that document. It's a marketing flyer that's being sent out, and it's about you, and it needs to be effective. And make sure the content is easily digestible and clear. And that goes along with that marketing piece. Make sure that I can see who you are, what you've done, and what you bring to the table to me as an employer quickly. That's what I need to see. All right. Moving on to the next piece. So we're going to get into LinkedIn and your online presence. So in addition to that resume, in addition to having kind of that your personal statement down and things like that, I also want you to look at your LinkedIn profile. As a professional, you have to have a LinkedIn profile. It doesn't matter what degree program you're coming out of, what industry you're working in. Professional, I want you to have a LinkedIn. So it's your online representation of your resume, and it's an extension of your resume. I mean, you may choose to tailor your resume, customize it to that job. Your LinkedIn profile can start explaining a little more about you. As an employer, they're going to be saying things that I can dig into your resume or to your LinkedIn profile that probably aren't going to be on your resume. Employers are actually out there looking for you. So when I talked about sourcing a little bit earlier, employers no longer are waiting for you to apply. Some of the best companies in the country are now out having divisions of their HR departments sourcing candidates, going out and looking for you online. Help them find you by creating a really good LinkedIn profile. Connections. So here in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about virtual networking and things like that. Build those connections. When we talk about virtual networking, LinkedIn is the most obvious place that you can go out and you can start building some connections. Build your network and make the most of it. So don't just connect with someone and go on about your way. Connect with them, try to engage with them, try to engage with companies that some of those individuals are working with. Use LinkedIn, and I'll touch a little bit on that here in a bit also. But following organizations, connecting with them are key to being active in the job search and not passive. So LinkedIn, and I'm just going to touch on the basics of a profile. You need to have a photo, and it needs to be professional. So I always want you to have a professional photo, not something where you're out, a hobby, there aren't other people photograph. I want a professional photo that you might see on a company website. Select open it, and if you're looking for a new position, there's a new way. There's a tab where you can open to a new job tab, and it'll put a filter on your photo to let sourcing candidates, hiring managers out there see really quickly and easily that you're open to a new position. Be aware that this also lets someone, if you're currently working at a company, that company can see that you're also looking for a position as well. So don't find yourself. Make sure that if you have that option out there, that you're open to everyone seeing it. Treat your summary like your elevator pitch. Speak to your brand. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you're looking for and where you're wanting to go. That's what I want to see in that summary. Education, certifications are obvious. Those things should all be on there. Featured work. So there's also an option to show featured work. So you may have a portfolio, you may have a personal website or something along those lines. You can put an outside link on your LinkedIn profile to kind of direct. And so as an employer, my first instinct is go out to your LinkedIn profile. I'll check out your LinkedIn profile. And then if I see that you have a personal website right there on your LinkedIn profile, it directs me to that personal website. So what it's doing is it doesn't have me digging around on the internet looking for things that I probably you don't want me to see. It has me focused on what you do want me to see online. So then moving on, obviously, list your skills. Again, when we're talking about a skills-based economy, go out, list your skills. But more importantly, as you connect with people, endorse the skills of your connections, because what will happen when you start endorsing skills is you will list your skills. You go out and endorse your network skills. They'll be asked, so-and-so has endorsed you for these skills. Would you like to endorse them for these skills? So you start having people speak for you. And that gets into this next bullet point also, where it talks about requesting recommendations. The key with a LinkedIn profile is not just having you talk about yourself, but having others talk about yourself. If you can get a lot of people to endorse your skills, I know that you have coworkers, classmates, supervisors, everyone out there telling me that you can do these things. The recommendations are the same way. Now I have people telling me, hey, this person is a great employee. This person is a great candidate. Here's why, before I ever talk to you in an interview. So these are the keys. You now have people out there talking for you, in addition to, putting all of your information out there about yourself. Make sure you also touch on professional organizations and any memberships. All of these things should be an extension of your brand. So if you're looking at getting into, maybe you're a graphic designer, all of these things should be relevant to your end goal of what it is you want to do with that graphic design degree, or that entry-level job, or maybe you're wanting to land that entry-level job. All of these interests and things should tie into that in some way. That's how we start talking personal brand. You don't have all the extempore stuff. You just have your information, or you have information directly tied to your career. Don't stop there though. So LinkedIn, and this is where I mentioned this a little bit earlier, follow organizations. So if you're applying, if you're out there applying to a specific organization, start following them on LinkedIn. Start looking at what they're posting. Look at what they're doing. So you can start seeing what's going on in the professional community. I mean, LinkedIn is designed as a professional networking tool. So if any organizations are putting information out there, if they have events, if they're all the interaction should be professional and business-like. So start following them and start being active with your LinkedIn account. Like I said, build a network, connect with coworkers, faculty, classmates, connect with everyone. It's a great way to start building a network. You never know when you may have a question for someone at a specific organization. One other really cool thing about LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning. So when I talked about upskilling, or maybe there was something blocking you from one of your goals, maybe you need to upskill, look at LinkedIn Learning. You can actually, you can take an assessment, you can take a class through LinkedIn Learning, and it will show up on your LinkedIn account as, completed this coursework or completed this, this training. So that's a way to upskill and have it reflected online too, so that employers can see that. Make sure when you're looking out, or when you're online, or you're on your profile, make sure that you're looking for content, and then you're sharing content. So you're being actively engaged, the same way as any other social media platform. You want to be engaged and share and post content, but make sure it's relevant. Tie it into who you are, tie it into those goals. So don't just go out and just share things because it looks cool. Share things that are tying into your end goal. So maybe, you're looking at, like I said, graphic design. Maybe there's a company that's, that's doing some really cool initiative, or has brought on some new technology. Share that and say, hey, this is really a great thing that so-and-so is doing. Because now all of a sudden it's like, when people start looking at what you've been doing on LinkedIn, they see that, hey, you've been engaged with what the industry is doing. Like I said, comment and share content, engage with the community, follow influencers. So make sure that when people are out there, who are what would be, basically professional LinkedIn people, see what they're doing and make sure that's tied to your industry. See what they're saying, read about, it's a good way to stay up to date on current trends and things like that. Join groups. So I've got a few groups here in the St. Louis area listed here, but there are tons of groups out there. There may be some that are alumni groups with your school. There may be some that are just specific to your program. There are some that are professional organizations within your chosen career field. Start joining those groups, start getting engaged. It's a great way to see what's going on. And then, like I said, also, there's a LinkedIn talent blog too that talks through a lot of relevant industry trends and updates and things that may be important. So virtual resume, it gets into all sorts of things, but it's a good way to stay up to date on what current trends are in hiring and recruiting and things like that. All right. So moving on. So go even further though with your social media or a personal website. So, make sure Google yourself. I mean, that's going to be one of those things that I'm going to tell you. Make sure you go out and Google yourself. And does your online presence reflect your brand? So go out and look at everything that you've done, everything that's out there with your name attached to it online, and see if it reflects your brand. And if it doesn't, try to find a way to fix that. A really good way of doing that is ask someone else to do this. So, when someone does a web search, have someone else do a web search and see what they find, see what their first impression of you is. It's a really great way to get an idea on what an employer is going to see. Now, take into consideration also that I've talked with a lot of students over the years who've said, oh, well, I've got my stuff hidden. It's not locked down, but it's hidden. Employers are going to have more information than just your name. They're going to have anything that's on your resume. They're going to have, if you've had to fill out an application, all of that information. Employers are going to find all of your social media, like your posts and accounts that maybe you've forgotten from years ago. So make sure that you go out and do a thorough search of everything. Know that employers are going to be able to find this stuff. And then if you need a portfolio or a personal website, those are things to consider. And a lot of times those are industry specific. However, it's getting more applicable across the board. So, in the past, if you were in art or counseling or design, you may need that personal website or an online portfolio, but it's moving into almost every genre now, or every industry where you can have that presence, business included, even in the health sciences and things like that. There's a need to have more than just your resume and your LinkedIn account out there. And if you do, create a personal website, but make sure it's tied to your brand. Don't just share personal hobbies and interests. You want to tie it to your personal brand. All right, joining professional organizations. So make sure that these professional organizations are tied to your career path. So you want to be joining professional organizations that are related to your career. So many of them are going to, and this is where we get into that virtual networking piece. So many are hosting networking opportunities and they've shifted to virtual events right now. So, they're a professional organization who's in the business of connecting with their professionals within that field. They're not going to stop doing it just because of COVID. They're going to figure out a different way. And so they have these virtual events. And this is also a way to meet with others with varying levels of industry experience. So it's not just all entry level, and it's not all just people who have 10 years in the field. You're going to meet everyone, and it's a good way to start building connections within that field. It's a good way to ask questions. One key thing that I throw out as a career services specialist is making sure that you do informational interviews. Ask questions instead of being interviewed for jobs. You ask questions of an employer. You ask questions of someone who's in that field. Learn more about it, and it's going to make you better prepared when you're in an interview situation. Network with others there's obviously built-in commonalities as well. So you're all in the shared field. You're in a shared career field. So you have a commonality with everyone in there. So it makes networking a little bit easier. My big thing, current students, student discounts. Sometimes joining multiple or professional organizations is expensive. If you do it as a student, typically they're going to offer a reduced rate for a student, and it's a good way to start building those connections early on. And as you move along, you can start deciding which organizations you want to carry on with after graduation. And then also some of these will host specific job boards to that industry as well. So it's a way to access maybe some job postings that might not have been available in regular job boards like Indeed and some of the other places. So in addition to those that are within your career path, I also want you to start looking at organizations outside your career path. And so some of the really big ones that I talk about with students are young professionals groups. So those could be young or young friends of or friends of organizations. So those could be like Young Friends of the Zoo or Friends of the Zoo. The International Institute here in St. Louis has a young professionals board. So there are lots of different organizations around that you could, botanical gardens, things like that. And those are ways to network, not necessarily career-wise, but you start building some connections. You start feeling connected with your community. And it's also a great way to build your resume. And you never know when someone within one of those organizations is either going to be in the same field as you, or they're going to know people who might be able to connect you to someone. So don't just focus on those professional organizations within your career path. Look at those outside your career path as well. So sites. My big thing on when you're trying to look at online, quality over quantity. So don't just post everything out, don't just apply on every position out there, but don't necessarily neglect sites either. Be selective, focus on companies and positions where you want to work. There are hundreds, literally hundreds. I mean, I have this image up here right now of job boards. Find those that are the best fit for you. I also always try to tell you, try to utilize industry or job type specific sites too. So that might be DICE, if you're in the tech field. It may be things like MoReap or the Higher Education Recruiting Consortium here in, if you're looking in education as well. So there are a lot of very specific job boards out there. Search those out, talk to a career strategist or someone who can help you find those sites too. And my big thing is, and this is no matter what, research, research, research. Always be on, researching. Virtual information sessions and career fairs. Companies are still hiring. You got to find them. You got to find out how they're doing these things. Most every school is pivoted to doing a virtual career fair, virtual networking events. Companies and organizations are doing it as well. So find them in different places, whether it's your jobs platform at your school, whether it's LinkedIn, social media, traditional media, however you find them, you need to find out about these things. You want to try to find out about them in advance, and then be prepared for these events. So just as you would for any face-to-face event or career fair, prepare the same way. You need to have you need to know who you are. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to have those goals outlined and be ready to go. You need to register early. Don't wait until the last minute, because you want to make sure that everything is ready to go and you don't have any problems pop up at the last minute about being able to access the event. Research the organizations too that are attending. So make sure that you know who it is you want to talk to, because you want to make the most of your time at these events. So you also, before you log in, before you that day of the event, understand and test your technology. So make sure your technology is working. Once you're there, once you're in the event, find a good, quiet place with a good internet connection. Most of you have had coursework or internships or jobs where you probably had to interact virtually. Same thing goes for all that as with a career fair or a networking event. You need to make sure that you're in a good, quiet place. Treat those interactions just as you would in a traditional fair, though. You need to introduce yourself. You need to start that conversation the same way you would in a traditional fair, and you need to kind of guide where the conversation is going. And then remember, it's still, even though it's virtual, this is still your chance to make a first impression, no matter how you do it. Or no matter what you're doing, make sure that you're making that good first impression when you're talking with someone at a virtual event as well. All right. So don't let a conversation end there as well. So in addition to, taking that virtual session, and making the most of it, don't let it end there. Get the names of someone who's presenting, get the names of recruiters, follow up, link with them on LinkedIn, or contact them by email. If you talk to someone about a job opportunity or an internship opportunity, ask for the next steps. It may be that you're reaching out through LinkedIn to say, we had a great conversation. Thank you. I'd like to know the next steps for the application process for the opportunity. It's something as simple as that. Be polite and be persistent, but be polite as well. Know that people are pressed for time, and everyone is connecting virtually now, so be patient as when you're doing that. But follow up with everyone, and then if you talk to someone, send a thank you for taking the time to talk with you. It's a great way to continue a conversation after that initial meeting. All right. So also, I also want to point out, because a lot of times when we talk about COVID and networking and things like that, most everyone comes out with a negative reflection of what's going on in the world, in the state of the world. Not everything is a negative now. So one key thing for everyone right now is, remember, geography is no longer a limiting factor. Virtual recruiting and interviewing can allow you to expand your search. And so in this case, most everyone is probably going to do an initial interview virtually now. So you're not going to have to physically travel. If you're applying in Austin, Texas, you're not going to have to physically travel or feel obligated to travel to Texas to do an interview, at least initially, because it's almost always going to be virtual. The same way with recruiting events. If it's a virtual recruiting event, you can now take part in that event from the comfort of your own home, and it could be 1,000 miles away, as long as that's a region that you're looking to relocate to. So geography is now not limiting your ability to interact, and that's a really good thing. You can now interact with some people that you would have never had the chance to connect with in the past. I also throw out now, usually participation is more democratic or procedural. And what do I mean by that? There are a lot of people when networking who have a problem of going and interjecting yourself into a conversation, or you feel like, I don't know where I fit in this this networking event. It's really tough for me. Well, when you're doing a virtual event, most of them are set up now in a way that you don't have to interject yourself in the conversation. You're brought into the conversation. So they may travel around the room, ask everyone who you are and why you're there. You can bring that up, and then all of a sudden it's not difficult to interject yourself in the conversation, and then make sure that you're clear. I'm here trying to connect. I'm looking at becoming an accountant in the future, and I want to connect with some people and maybe ask questions about those who've been in the profession for a while. And usually people who are in those networking opportunities are more than happy to connect with you and start talking with you about those opportunities as well. So that makes life a little easier for those who maybe were hesitant in face-to-face networking opportunities. My last piece here is efficiency. So now you don't have to drive somewhere. You don't have to wait. And you're not at a 2-hour event to talk to two people. You know exactly how long it's going to take you to interact with, especially at a career fair, like a virtual career fair. Instead of, I have to stand in line and wait to talk to this person, you now probably have an appointment for a one-on-one conversation at 1:30 with company A and at 1:45 with company B. And maybe those are the only two companies you wanted to talk to. Now you've only invested, 15 to 30 minutes in something that may have taken, multiple hours before. So efficiency is key as well. So it's not all negatives now with virtual networking. One other thing that I just like to throw out too are some additional resources here in the St. Louis region. So some of the networking sites that are out there and kind of see what's going on. So there's a Beyond Networking STL, which has a lot of different types of networking events. St. Louis Magazine puts out a virtual event list. Make sure you're checking out things like Cortex. If you haven't checked out Cortex here in St. Louis, they do a venture cafe, which is a great networking opportunity. Meetup has a lot of different opportunities. So there's network after work in St. Louis through Meetup. There's also a new site called the Job Seekers Garden Club of St. Louis, which is really cool. They also have a LinkedIn group out there. So check those out. And then, when you're looking at virtual networking, especially post-COVID, there's a ton of articles out there about it. They're constantly being written. So it's always something new. So I put a few on here to check out. But, if you want to look at other, inventive ways or see some of the new apps and technology that's out there that's coming about, things are still being developed for networking. Keep up to date and see what's available. This is something that's not going away because it's making it more efficient for recruiters. It's making it more efficient for job seekers, for those wanting to network. So while you may see face-to-face coming back and those opportunities, you'll also still see some of these virtual events as well. So that being said, I just want to say thanks to everyone. And if anyone has any questions, I can say I'll check out the chat or comments and see if anybody has questions and see if I can answer those.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you
Oh.
so much, Shannon. Thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you to everyone participating in SOL today. We hopefully, I hope you have found these presentations to be informative. I know I was certainly taking notes in my own, career development. So thank you so much. If there aren't any questions, I think I can go ahead and end the broadcast, and we can continue on with the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks.